Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. How you doing, man?
Good, 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 good.
In quite a few years.
Yeah, it's been a while. Been a while. Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
we've we've
yes.
we've aged a bit over
Oh,
those.
yes.
Last time our teams competed against each other was in 2006 National Under 19 final.
No, actually, later you guys beat us twice. You remember in New York, 2009?
That was 2009, but even 2006 in
That was the first time. Yes,
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 yes.
I remember that. So, anyways,
Yeah.
let's just get started. I'm going to say one, two, three. Hello, viewers. This is Ganesh with Cricket in USA, and here with me joining the show is Mr. Basil Butcher Jr., who has been instrumental in promoting cricket, coaching cricket in the USA for a number of years. Brief background on him: his father played cricket for West Indies, so comes from cricketing family all along, and he's coached the USA cricket teams, and he's been coaching for at least as far as I remember, the past 20 years and more than that. So without wasting too much time, Mr. Butcher, stage is yours. Please give us everything that you know. As much as I would to talk less, and I would want you to talk. Thank you, sir.
Well, what do you want to talk about? Because I much prefer to talk about not about myself. Uh, I had a really good run with in the U.S. Involved in cricket, really, from the early 2000s as a coach, particularly starting with the youths. Actually, were the youth players that got me fired up back to be involved in cricket because I'd stopped playing and I would just go in the park and just watch and so on. And Shelton Glasgow, we organized because myself and Lyndon Fraser, we formed the first ever youth team, probably in the United States, to play in the league back in must have been around 2004 or so. And so we decided we had this team playing in the Brooklyn League, and I would play with them, like be like a coach player on the field with them, and Praise would be on the side. And then we decided the next year to have a competition with other teams in the New York metro area. So we had a team from Connecticut. We were going to we were going to have a team from New Jersey, a team from Washington D.C., and like two or three teams from New York. And well, here I was working with Fraser in New York, although I was living in New Jersey. And so when he contacted Shelton Glasgow about the New Jersey team, he said, Butch is going to be coaching the team in New York. Glasgow said, no, 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 no. He lives in New Jersey, so he has to coach a team in New Jersey. So when he said to me, so I'm like, New Jersey got young guys who play cricket. He said, yeah, yeah. No. So I turned up the first day and I was amazed at the talent. These young guys lit a fire under me to, I always say they were the ones that, because when I saw this talent, I was like, wow, we got all these young cricketers here in the United States. I really want to be part of this. And that's when the journey began with me getting fully involved in coaching youths. And I went on to coach the seniors and the women, USA women's national team. And as you know, I was also a physio and I went on several tours with seniors and on the 19s US national team. So I got, and then, back in those days, we used to have those national championships on the 19s and the seniors every year. Now I don't know what they're calling it today. I'm hearing all kinds of things,
Right, right, right. Well, when
yeah.
I hear you say you had a good run, I think there are still opportunities.
Oh yes. Oh,
Yes,
I
absolutely. Yeah.
I agree with you. I love to because funny. The last month or so, there's this organization here in New Jersey that they have these camps for all various sports, and they had reached out to Shelton's league looking for a coach, and he contacted me, coaching kids just to learn to play the game. And so I said, cool. And I did it for the last 4 weeks. Not this past weekend, last weekend was the end of the camp. It was
Right.
fun, but not really what I want to do. I want to get involved more with actual guys and gals who are playing the game to help them to develop their skills, you know. But
Right, right. So you've coached at the under 19 World Cup. You've coached the
mhm,
team,
yes,
women's team. So we have coaching a pedigree here in the United States with experience,
mhm,
and we definitely want to showcase, highlight, because what happens is people tend to forget what has been done. The good work has been done in the past when they want to
right.
go forward. So we definitely, this is an attempt to again educate the cricket loving folks of United States. So help me
Mhm,
understand your family background, because you grew up in cricket family, and
yes,
the West Indies.
yes.
Yeah,
I usually like to tell people that I actually became a cricket fan in my mother's womb
sure.
because my father was playing in the leagues in Lancashire. He was playing in the Lancashire leagues, and my parents were living in England at the time. So my mom was pregnant with me when they went over to England, and it was during that season, that summer, because I'm born in July. I was born in Lancashire, so I always tell people I was around cricket with my mother with a big belly, with me
Right.
inside. So I've been a cricket fan from since then. And um, my dad, we came back to Guyana. Well, not we. Well, they as a family, they returned to Guyana. I came back with them, and and he was hired as a coach. That's why we came back from England. um, he was hired as a coach for a town in Guyana called at the time it was called Mackenzie, to be the coach, to build up cricket there. And people who were, he was coaching would tell me that you were the son, because there were times he would bring me with him. I was a little boy, barely walking. He would bring me with him while he's coaching. So even then, I got exposed to cricket, and from since then, I always tell people I've been fortunate to be around the game at a high level from infant, because my dad was still playing for the West Indies. I don't remember a lot, um, but even after he retired, we always, because he became a selector, administrator, and he was still playing with the club there. And I would often go with him to trial matches when they were picking the Guyana team. So I was always, and as I got older, I would be sitting there like as a 10-year-old and hearing these guys talking the game as they're watching, not understanding much what they're talking about. But as I got older, I started to remember some of the things they're saying, and it started to make more sense,
Right.
And I would say my dad was my cricket professor. It was a joy to sit down with him and watch a match, either live or on TV. And the things he would see, me and you, cricket fans, we know a little bit, but because of experience, he would see things and I'd be like, what? What do you mean? And, I'm just picking his brain and, getting information that would take years of experience to glean. I always tell the story of back in 1994, I went back to Guyana to see England was touring the West Indies. And I got home, got back to Guyana like probably a week or more before the test match. So the West Indies President's 11 was playing England in the pre-game, the match prior to the test. And my dad, he had stopped going to cricket. He was on a self-imposed exile because of administration BS in Guyana, so he stayed away. And he decided to break his exile, and we went. And this was the first time he would ever see Shivnarine Chandapal bat. Chandapal, I think he made like five or something like that. And as two of us were walking out the ground at the end of the day to go get a transportation to go back home, and he turns to me and says, "That chap Chandapal is a damn good batsman." And I looked at him like he got horns going out his head, like, "What? That guy made five. He didn't do nothing." He said, "No, no, no." He said to me, he saw a ball slowed up on Chandapal. and he was in a good position to play. He said that is a mark of a good batsman. Now I didn't even see that, right? But that experience gave me another lens to start look at different things, and that was the thing I used to love when my dad was still alive. It was, I mean, that's one of the things. One of the things, other than just his in being around, is always being able to pick up the phone and call him to ask him about stuff regarding cricket that because he's been through it. That's one thing I really miss about him. Not being around anymore. Yeah, but and being around cricket at high level, some of the greats of West Indies cricket that didn't household names, the Clive Lloyd, this Sir Clive Lloyd, Sir Garfield. So as you name all the sirs, I some of them I used to call uncle.
Okay. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I knew them as since I was a child, and
Right.
didn't think was a big deal. It's until you grow up later and you see the adulation that people respond to these people. You're like, wow, I was really privileged.
Yeah, that's what I was going to come to is lucky you, because
Yeah,
not many can claim they have had this fortune. So
right. Yeah,
that paved way
I
for
cherish
you.
that.
Yes, absolutely. So that paved the way for you to, get into, as you said, you were playing and then eventually you got into coaching. So,
Yes,
yeah, help us understand how I remember our team, your team, my team, Northwest Region,
yes,
your team, the Atlantic Region team. We competed
right.
against each other in the national under 19 final. So
Hmm.
obviously we did our work in developing the kids, but some of the names that you've coached over the years, and as well as your under 19 World Cup experience in 2006, because to me that was the best team under 19 team that we had
Yes, yes, yes. I
far.
would say that.
I can still recall names of a lot of players from them.
Yeah,
Yeah, help
yeah.
understand that, sir.
Uh, well, starting with the 2006, having that experience, we went to India, then went on to Sri Lanka for the actual tournament. And, Larry Gomes is the coach. So that was another great learning experience to listen to him, pick his brain as we would sit in the dressing room, as we watch in the pavilion, as we watch the game. Um, but yeah, guys like Abhimanyu from Southern California, Nathaniel, Odin, Dotson. Um, let me see
Timbawala,
some. Who?
Timbawala.
Timbawala, Ravi Timbawala. I
Yep,
remember
yep.
Ravi's parents coming over from India to see, maybe all that was extra pressure in Ravi,
Right,
why he probably
right,
didn't do as
right.
well as he could have done, with the talent that he had. Um, Dean from
Yeah,
here in New
Romino Dean.
York.
Yep, yep.
Dean, he
Heyman,
was my clubmate. He was my
Heyman
clubmate.
Punu.
Yeah, Punu, the captain. Yes.
Yep.
You know,
Just because
um,
some of these boys they played against the Northwest region in the under 19 finals just few months later. That's the reason
mhm.
names all these names right
Yes, yes,
in
yes,
my head.
yes. And several of them, like Dotson, went on to play for the United States.
National team. Yep, 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 yep.
Abhimanyu. I remember funny with Abhimanyu, right? When I got back into being a physio with the national team, we were in Canada for the Audi Cup.
Right.
So our guys from the New York area, we got in like before the guys from the West Coast and other parts of the country. And so we must have went out somewhere to get something to eat. So we're walking back and coming towards an Abimanyu, and another guy, another player was at the hotel checking in, and he turned around and when he saw me, he was like, "Coach!" And he ran to me and hugged me. He was like, "Thank God you here. We have a real physio, guys. We have a real
Absolutely.
physio." Oh, I mean, and
I
uh,
know what you're alluding to it, but yeah,
yes, yes, yes. And
agree.
what was funny, after the tour, one thing I love about Abhimanyu, he's a guy, he speaks his mind. He's
Fighter,
not a guy
fighter.
that's gonna
He's a
be,
fighter.
yes, he's not he's a straightforward guy, and I respect that to the nth degree about him.
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
he's fearless. That's what also I loved about him. And he I got an email because you remember Andy Pick at the time was
And the pick. Yep. Yep.
the high performance guy
Yep.
at that time. And Abby Manu wrote an email to the CEO, the then CEO of Beasley, I think it was his name, um, praising my work with them as a physio. And he
Right.
talked about me with them in 2006. I know Mr. Butcher all these years, and
Right.
he's a bet. So um, Andy Ford emailed me. He's like, "Good going, Butch. Good going."
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
I always enjoyed, going on those tours with those players. Because you develop a bond, no matter how long you haven't seen each other. When you see each other again, because spending 2 3 weeks in close quarters together, you get to know each other and those kinds of things. Those bonds will never be. I would see guys years later, and we just pick right up from where we were all those years before. But the other part about it was the amount of players that went on to play international cricket in the 2006 World Cup. I mean, from around the world that these guys played against. Like, for example, New Zealand is playing against India right now. There are a couple of guys on both teams. Um,
Rohit Sharma.
uh, Sharma, I remember meeting Sharma, Pujara, and Jadeja.
Yep.
All three of them were on that team,
Yep.
right? But I remember meeting Sharma. Actually, it was funny, it was Abby Manu that introduced me to Sharma because they knew who these guys were. And one day I was coming into the lobby, and he and another player was with Sharma and two other Indian players. And he stopped me because he wanted to let me know that they were going to be going. So if anybody asked where they were, at least they know one of the officials on the team. And he
Right.
introduced me. This is Rohit Sharma. Well, at that time, I'm like, who the
Right.
Rohit
Right.
Sharma?
Right.
Hey, how you doing? Blah blah
Right.
blah.
Right.
So now
Right.
years later, I'm like, oh, that was the
Yeah.
guy.
That was
I
the
remember
guy.
talking about this Rohit Sharma guy. Blah, blah. So I see why they were talking about him. Um, New Zealand had Guptill and
Yeah.
Southee, both of
Yeah.
them,
In Saudi,
and
Martin
Colin
Guptill. Yeah.
Munro. Colin Munro also.
Yep.
Right, the guy who's right now the captain of South Africa was the captain of the 2016
Right. Right. Right.
Eldar. He was the
Yep.
captain there. Um, we played against Australia, and Australia had the current white ball captain, Aaron Finch,
Finch. Yep.
um, Warner,
Yeah.
Matthew Wade,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Moises Henriquez. He was the captain for Australia at the time. They had this guy Jackson Bird who had played for Australia.
Yeah. Fast
Um,
bowler. Yeah.
yes, yes, and there's another guy. His name escapes me. Also played for Australia at the time. The West Indies. The current captain of the West Indies white ball team, Kyron Pollard. He was there. Kemar Roach was there.
Right.
Uh, Narayan was there. Let me see any other West Indian player that's playing now. I don't. Oh,
So that was a big crop of
yeah,
international stars.
Brooks was there. Brooks
2006. Yeah.
was there
Yeah.
also. Jamar
Shamar
Brooks.
Brooks. Yeah.
Yeah, he
So
was
so
also there.
come to think of it, all the cricket playing nations, the top cricket playing nations were able to promote their under 19 talent to the men's national teams, whereas we really failed in doing that. And
Yes,
I
yes,
think I
yes.
think I'm just as a cricket fan first, and then local
Mhm.
administrator. I would hope that the current crop that we are from training and hoping for them to go to the 19 World Cup. Hopefully, in the next 5 years, more than just 2 3 names
I agree.
the national under 19 national men's team. I'm just hopeful about it. So help us understand what are you currently doing and how are you keeping yourself close to cricket?
Okay.
You
Before
mentioned
I
that.
just want to before I do that, I want to piggyback on that point you just made. Because there's this guy Auden who was our fast bowler. He was
Dominic
an
Audin.
outstanding
Yep.
fast, Dominic Auden.
Yep.
Dotson also acquitted
Kim
himself.
Dodson.
He had
Yep.
40 something against West Indies. I mean, Auden had almost had West Indies for down three with less than 10 runs on the board. And I remember we because that World Cup was was early in 2006. And later on into the summer now, the national regional tournament. So you got the Eastern and Western Conference, and the Eastern Conference was being played in New York. So I turned up to see Atlantic Region play New York. So when I walked into the ground, I looking over into the New York where the New York players were because I'm looking for Dotson and Odin. So I look in and I say, where is Dotson and Odin? How come they're not in your squad? Them guys tell me, oh, they're. I said, guys, are you guys crazy? Those two guys just came from a Youth World Cup where the competition is higher than this. And they showed acquitted themselves. And now you're going to tell me they're not going to be what? You guys, y'all understand this process of developing players. At least in at least in the Atlantic region, we made sure Dean was on our team. You know,
No,
when
I
I come back,
remember. I remember when these southern southwest region, Southern California team showed up. We had Manal Patel, we had Ravi Timbawala.
of course, all of them were on the team. All
Yes.
of them were on the team.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
yeah. But like what you asked me about what I'm doing, I'm still doing what I was doing before, but now I do it now. I call define myself as what we call a neuro athletic coach because I'm using applied neurology along with the movement conditioning and skill development of players. So everything the neurology controls all movement. So by being understanding when with the neurology, you can detect and improve because there's something not going on really well in the nervous system and the brain upregulate. You know, it's not function as it should. So I do things to like upregulate that, and then we work on the other stuff. So and then able to train skills that players or athletes or whatever never thought they could train to get better. Like cricket, for example, um, we know how they teaching training players about where their eyes should be. Say a batter, for example, as the bowler comes in, is not something we deliberately do, but it is a skill that we can train. And because of the work that I do, I can train that and look at other things. Like we often hear like a batter is not able to keep his head still while playing the ball, and we would just tell the player, keep your head still, keep your head still. But because of my understanding of applied neuroanatomy, I know why I can assess and detect why player X is not able to hold their head still when they move or whatever, and then address it. So then now they do the drills, hold their head still. They could play the stroke and keeping their head still without thinking about it. So that's a lot of things I've been doing. Because last summer when the pandemic started, last year, I did an online thing with several young players about using applied neurology to improve batting, bowling, fielding skills, and so on, online class. And that's something I'm looking to develop even more with cricketers because it's not something that is in the cricketing world. I have colleagues in Europe that do it with football teams, track and field, and so on, but no one is doing it with cricket. And I was really happy during the India Australia series when Shane Warne was in commentary. He mentioned this thing we call the quiet eye, which is a thing as an athlete. The quiet eye is wherever you're going to be focusing your eye for that 100th of a second, and your eye transfers to another place or what have you. So now, because of the technology and the understanding of more understanding of how the brain functions as it regards to movement, we can now train an athlete to have their eyes, or even their eyes, or may not be functioning as well. Make sure we do things to get it functioning. So and show them where their eyes should be functioning in the task that they're doing. So and just by doing that, because most of the information for movement we get through our eyes, their skill level improves just by doing that.
Wonderful.
And so that's
That's
pretty much what I'm doing
so.
doing
This
these
is
days. Yeah.
So this is an eye opener. So my message to the viewers and everybody watching is: here we have qualified coaching pedigreed individuals here in the U.S. and yeah, we have to make sure to utilize the services that are domestically available, and someone with experience. So, Coach, what message would you like to give to the cricketing community, leagues, academies, and the local and the national administrators?
Um, I think one of the things, and I've said this before, people have been coming to the United States and like the ICC when they took over from USACA and assumed that there was no one in America that understood cricket, that we were all stupid, we didn't know, we didn't have a clue, etc. And I've always argued we already have a structure, but we never utilize it properly. Because when you look at it, you have the leagues, then you could have the interleague competition, then you have from that interleague you have the regional trials and the regional team, the national trials and the national team.
We did that in
So
the past. We did that for,
exactly.
yeah.
Yes, and some and what was the problem with that? What was the issue we used to have with that? Is that it was not used as well as it could have been used because in the Atlantic region, for example, when I was the head coach for all the regional teams, I was in charge of making sure I used to always, because I hated leagues sending a list of players for trials. I wanted guys to come to trials because they have done well in their league. They perform. So nobody has to send a list. We could just simply look on the league website and see the top 4 or 5 scorers and the top 4 or 5 bowlers and say, okay, these guys, they're invited to trials. We don't need the league president because on whomever who's curry flavor with one guy or whatever. So but the problem used to be the struggle we often had was to get the inter-league competition up because some leagues there wasn't. So we actually wrote to you. Some leagues would be like, yeah, we're gonna perform. We're gonna send a team. Yeah, right. I actually turned up to a interleague game, and there were a bunch of old guys playing. I was like, this is not what it's supposed to be. This
Right,
is supposed to
right.
be guys who are looking to play for the region and further on play for the United States. So we wrote a letter to USACA at the time asking them to mandate that every league who is a member and mandate to players, unless you participate in the interleague, you're not going to be eligible to play for the United States. Now that wouldn't have cost you a cent. Sometimes we argue about we don't have money, but there's so many things we could have done that didn't cost money, like something like that. So that would have meant we would have had a performance-based structure all the way to the national team that say a young player would have a clear pathway. Well, I want to play for United States. Good. I got to make runs for my club so I can get into my interleague team. I got to make runs in the interleague tournament so I get called to trials for my region. I got to make runs in the regional trials so I get picked for my region. Now, when I get to the national tournament, I got to make runs for my region to get called for national trials and perform there and get picked for the national team. So we wouldn't have a lot of the controversy we often had about selection. People
Right,
cry, "Oh, how come this guy got here?" and so on and
right.
so forth. It would have, obviously you're never gonna please 100% of the people, but once you had a system, because sometimes selectors will make a choice, you might not agree, but they see something, and that's cool. But once it's based on performance, it would not have been a problem for me. And I think you know what they're doing now, the USA cricket, I think that is backward. I shore up the leagues, the club system, because that is the foundation of our cricket. The grassroots. I seen, they picking these regionals. Who are picking these teams? How are players getting there? What are the performance criteria for them to be there and all of these things? You know, I don't know, you know, because I'm not seeing a clear from club to that region. And even when they had the those combines back in 2016, I went to 2 of them because if I'm gonna give any assessment, I gotta see it up close. So I went to the one in New Jersey and the one in New York as a volunteer coach. And I wrote to the ICC folks after, giving them my feedback on it, because I said, firstly, most of the guys that turned up there, they shouldn't even been there, because You're talking about picking guys straight from club to play for United States. That's a huge gap, right? And lots of these guys, I know who all the better players are because I'm around. I'm in the league watching cricket. So I see a bunch of these guys I know. I'm like, what the hell are these guys doing here? You know, yeah, because I remember they sent me a list to help because like you remember it was like where you as a player you could send in your thing to fill out a form to get in, right? So I was one of the coaches they sent the list. So they had like 96 players and they said, well, we want to get this down to like 40 something, right? So, I started going to all the league websites around the area. And I'm going to tell you something. If I was using the standards that I used to always say, if you're in a league and you are not in the top 5 batters in your league, you shouldn't even be thinking about playing for the region.
Right. Yeah, no, that
Because
was,
when you extrapolate those performances going up,
yeah,
you know, because a guy might say, "Yeah, man, I'm in the top 10," but top 10 in the competition you're playing against doesn't translate to going up the levels, right?
yeah,
The same with bowlers. I would say, okay, if you're in the league and you want to play for the region, I would say your economy rate should be 4 or less
right,
because you're going to reach better batters as you're going up. So if 6 at the 50 over level is acceptable, right? Or even below, just below 6. So I extrapolating, if you're doing a 3 or 4 in your league, that equals to about a 6 playing at the regional level, competing to play for United States, you know. But guys often, some guys they never used to, they wouldn't see, and I would try to educate them. I said, look, you have to be, and I went through looking through these guys in the league as I was playing, tried to eliminate, and guys weren't even averaging 40 in their league, but they want to go play for America,
right,
right?
right, right. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
you, and what it was too, because of our experiences, as you know, going to national regionals, you know the level of competition there. So you can gauge, looking at a guy and say, nah, this guy. I'll give you a funny story about that.
Right,
We
right.
had
So
traveled.
what I would understand is, the consistency of a player over a season or 2 seasons matters than what you see of them in a span of 2 days or 3 days camp that is held. When
Exactly,
very
exactly.
little time for the player to come out of his, come out of his elements or come,
Yes,
perform.
yes.
So
I
absolutely,
I I I actually would have loved if we could have afforded it in our national tournaments to have all the regions play at least against each other once. So guys,
trust me, it's possible. It's possible. It's possible that
yeah,
the
because that
intentions
would
need
have
to be
meant,
there. Yep.
yeah, so that would have meant a player would have had, because we had what was 8 regions at the time, right?
Yep.
Each play would have had 7 matches. That's enough for the selectors to make a determination as to whether or not you belong to the next level. That would have been a really good amount of games for you to play, Because I remember one trials we had here in New Jersey, and you remember Imran Awano, U.S. fast bowler.
As
Well, I
bowler.
always used to make sure I wanted all the guys who played the year before, I wanted them to come to trials. And they would be like, Coach, what do you want us there for? I said, not to make the team. Remember, you got guys trying to make the team. You're the standard. So I don't want them competing against their peers who never played at that level. I want them to compete against guys who played already so we could really gauge how good they are. Well, there was this one guy, 2 guys, sorry, they were talking about their big bats. One guy said he's the most explosive bat in certain league. So I know Imran. Imran is always competitive, right?
Boy, he
So
is quick, man. He
yeah, right.
was
So
quick.
Imran, I had Imran was going to be bowling to them. So Imran runs in and bowls the first ball to the guy. Before he can raise his bat, his stumps are all scattered, and he wanted to come and say, "No, no, no, no. Could be a good first ball. I want to give you a good
Right,
chance."
right, right,
Second ball, he did the same thing to the guy. I said, "No, no, no. Go on." The third ball, he did it, and I said, "Come on in. You ain't ready for this."
right, right,
you
right.
know.
No,
So
I remember Imran Awan came here with the Guyanese West Association from New York when he came here to play in our tournament,
Yes,
and, and he turned eyes like how fast is this guy? Everybody showed up. Wow,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
really quick
I,
bowler. Yeah,
I loved it by Imran. I loved his
yeah,
competitive. He had the
competitive,
mentality of a he had the
fast
mentality of
bowler,
a fast bowler.
fast
He was
bowler.
always up in your face.
Yeah,
I remember one game we were in Atlanta Eastern Conference, and this is show how competitive it. Him and two other players drove all night. They got in like 6 in the morning because they drove from Virginia to Atlanta, right? So I said, Imran, this place is hot as hell. You ain't getting no sleep. I would rather you rest because we got the game with New York tomorrow. That's the big game, right? I want you ready for them, right? He's like, no, coach, no, I'm ready to go. I said, Imran. I said, all right, man. I give him the benefit of that. He's a player. At the first water break, I run out with, you go like, yo, coach, you was right, man. I'm on fumes. I said, man, you can't drive all night and no sleep and perform at your best. So I said, man, y'all get a good night's rest because tomorrow's New York. And Steve Messiah was the captain, and he came into bat and Imran was bowling. The first ball, Steve hit Imran over the top for six. And I was like, oh my God, Steve is on his thing today. And Imran gave him the next ball, the what we would call it for a fast ball, the golden ball. Just short of a length. You can't go forward, you can't go back, but you have to play. And took the shoulder and got him caught behind. Man, it was jubilation.
celebration, huh? Celebration.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So New York and New Jersey, or the New York and the Atlantic region, have always had good, healthy competition, just like we have
yes,
here,
yes, yes,
Southern
yes,
California, Northern California. Right.
exactly.
Right. Right.
I would always we in the Atlantic region, we always picked our teams in mind that we knew if we want to win it all, we have to beat New York.
New York.
And New York
Yes.
always had a very tough team. So if
Very good
we
team.
always pick players that we if you couldn't compete against New York, it didn't make no difference to come and play for us because if you could compete against New York, I felt you were ready to play for the United States because they always had a tough team, New
Right.
York.
So help me understand, we are almost coming 40 minutes to the hour. Help me understand how are, this year's under 19 tournament, I didn't see much, or don't want to disrespect the under 19 boys from the East region, but uh, uh, what was no,
Well,
particular reason
I
you think the team wasn't that strong enough?
I would not I would not want to comment because I really don't know a lot of the players these days because I don't really follow it that closely. The one guy that I lean on for that kind of information is Lyndon Fraser
Fraser,
because
yeah, I need to.
yeah.
I'm tracing him down. I haven't.
I will text you his phone number when we're done.
No, I have his number. Benji gave me. I met Benji day before yesterday, and Benji gave me his number. I'm trying to track.
Okay. Yes, yes. Because
Fraser.
I actually told him because by the way, Shelton Glasgow says to say hello to you because
I need to call Mr. Glasgow
yes,
as well. Yeah.
yes, before I came on here,
Mhm.
actually I was on the phone with both him and Phrase, and I told him I'll be coming on the show with Ganesh. And
Yeah.
one thing I wanted to highlight to you, Ganesh,
Sure.
that you might I don't know if you know about this. When we went to national tournaments and so on, USACA, even if we had to pay our airfare, USACA took care of transportation and hotel and meals. Now, I'm sure you've heard that all these regionals that are going on, the current U.S. cricket, are having players have to pay their airfare, their hotel, their own transportation, and their dinner. Now, I've heard about because they're supposed to have the women regionals down in North Carolina coming up July 4th weekend. And I was hearing through the grapevine for like players that living in the area I live, it will cost them like $1,200. I mean, working class people, you asking them to pay 12 to go play cricket in COVID times where lots of people have lost their jobs and that kind of stuff. I mean, they got to do better than that because as we know, Usaka never got money, nothing like what they have gotten. And never we ever had to pay our hotels, never, or that kind of stuff,
No,
you
I
know.
remember when I booked travel for the West Coast team, the LA team, and Mr. Dainty would call me, give me his credit card number, and I would use
Exactly.
book
You
the
you
flights and
when
hotel and everything. Yeah, I remember that.
yeah.
And
Yeah, I
and then
remember when Mr. Caesar, the late Selwyn Caesar, when he would send us all the ticket thing, you would see at the bottom Gladstone Dainty,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, the
yeah.
credit card had bought the tickets, you know,
Right, right.
and to hear that you're at $1,200, there is no way on earth. If I was a coach, I'd have told him, sorry, I can't make it. Sorry,
Right.
$1,200. That's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah, and then some of the things that the tournament organizers, we were volunteer organizers, and we didn't expect any remuneration. It was just the love for the
Oh,
game is what
nope,
drove us
exactly.
to host this competition. Anyways, Mr. Butcher,
Yeah.
it's been wonderful to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Stay
Thank you for having me.
connected. Keep promoting the sport as the best
I
you've
will.
been doing. And hopefully one day we'll compete. Our teams will compete against each other. I remember.
Yes. You got me 2-0.
No. 2006 tournament, the finals. We
Oh man.
around the field, and you asked me, "Hey, you guys play cricket in California?" And I still
Yeah.
friendly banter.
And you know what's funny and to close, that team was probably the best team. Well, not it probably in terms of talent, it was the best under 19 team I had from the region. The second best was a team where we played you all in the final in New York. But
Right.
because you guys did everything right on the field when you bowled at us, because 137, I was like, that's gonna be a cakewalk.
Well,
you know?
one guy, Arshad Junaid, was taking it by himself, to be honest, if I remember.
Yes.
And he was caught on the
Junaid Rashid. You're talking about
Junaid
Yes.
Rashid, not Arshad
Yeah,
Junaid,
he
but
made
Junaid
50.
Rashid.
He made 50 in the game.
Yes. And
And then
I remember.
you remember was Nicholas Stanford when he
Yeah,
came in.
yeah.
And because I even turned to Jeff Miller when he came in. Jeff was the national chairman of selection, and Nicholas was batting, and one of your guys bowled a short when Nicholas hooked him out the ground. I said, Jeff, you know that guy he's from your country, Barbados. Hey,
Right.
Jeff, well, if he can hook like that, he better be a Bajan.
Good times, good cricket
Oh yes,
competitions.
just to closing, just wanted to. Many times, me and Shelton, we would talk on the phone, and because summertime, that like from around April, May, when we start preparing for national tournament, we would be on the phone talking. Boy, right about now, years ago, we'd be. I really miss those. I really miss that. I really miss it.
No, hopefully things will look up in the future. You can't lose hope.
Yes.
So
Yes.
thank you very much, Mr. Butch.
Okay, thank you, Ganesh, for having
you
me.
and keep the
Okay.
faith. Cricket, lovely cricket.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
All right, you be
Take
well.
care,
Take
sir.
care.
Bye.
Bye.